Are we rolling? All right. Down we go.
This is Radio Tetris International, a postcard from Poprad.
I think it's a bizarre idea.
Well, it doesn't sound broken.
We've had a bit of a rewind.
Ian, I've got something to say. I was waiting for my moment.
Leigh and I have lots of fun when we do these funny little things that we do.
In all honesty, I don't get
It'll
it.
be like a menage a trois.
I'm actually sitting here in my scanties.
Now see what you've done, Rachel.
I've got to tell you, though, it's pretty hilarious.
Oh, right.
Absolutely not. It's because you mended the studio and you broke everything.
What an idiot.
RTI.
That'll be us then. This is Radio Tetris International. It's Postcard from Poprad. Dave says, I just wanted to say the Consumer Watch Foundation. Oh, I don't believe it. He's not even in the studio. And I still get harangued by the guy. Hello to Charles. Hello to... who's that? Katouche. That's a lovely name, isn't it? Katouche. Katouche. It really is wonderful. I'm Mary Wiltshire at the base of the glorious Tatry Mountains that I can't see today because it's so snowy here. I had to wipe the car down this morning. Yeah, really, we've got 10 centimetres of snow here. It's amazing. And it's April. It's not even April the 1st. Hello.
Hello.
Hello. Hello, Rach.
Hello.
Hello. Everybody there?
We're all here.
You're all there. Good. In which case, we'll start in a couple of seconds after I said hello to Charles, who's joined us as well. Hello, Charles. How the devil are you? I to Lynn and Sarah. And, Fred's joined us from New York. Oh, that's lovely. Apparently he's still running around in his wheelchair. Angelica's recording the programme as always. Flipping at you. Hi to Hugh and Ivan and everybody else. And Shafiq has just joined us as well. We're going to dive straight over. We'll say hello to Rachel properly in a minute. But before we do that, we're going to dive over to Nottingham in the UK. No, Leigh's not in the Leigh's not in the toilet because he's not in the studio. He's in the United Kingdom, for goodness sake. He's okay. Oh, got love and kisses from people as well. Isn't that lovely? Sitting with Leigh today in...
Can I just interrupt you?
What?
We are actually in the process of hunting this particular person down who is tied up with somebody else. Somebody who is actually making a bit of a film about this project, and he will be joining us as soon as possible. In fact, the redoubtable Andrea is there demanding that everything is halted so he can come and talk to us here.
Right. Well, I can hear you in an echo chamber.
I mean, it's like I assume that was Steve. I'm in bathroom.
In bathroom, lad. Well, we'll say hello to Diego and Rebecca, who's just joined us, alongside with Sarah as well. Not a Sarah, a Sarah. Ooh, hello, people. How the devil are you? Very good indeed. And we have to say thank you to Lily Allen. I wonder if that's the same Lily Allen. Don't know.
Of course it is. Of course it is.
Well, Lily, thank you so much for all the nice love you've been sending our way. All 411 of them. That's flipping good going, that. So anyway, I'm padding. Have we got anybody yet?
No, I would continue, have a chat with Rachel, and we'll have a bit of a chat. I am waiting at the moment, and if there is a non-appearance, I will go and wrestle him to the ground and make him come in the studio.
Okie dokie. Well, hello, Rach.
Hello.
How are you?
Awake.
Well, that's what I was worried about. I guess you're going to be all awake and really producer style today.
Well, I don't know, but I mean, on a producer-y type note, I'm actually getting a lot of Skypey feedback from Uncle Leigh, and I can barely understand what he's saying.
Well, I know that.
But I'll bear with it nonetheless.
Rach, when can you ever understand him?
That's a good point. And while I'm not understanding things,
yes,
I just want to tell you that snow is stupid.
You're just annoyed because it didn't snow when you were here. And
the whole time.
Well, I'll tell you how bad it is. You know when you see those cartoons and they have like the big snowflakes falling on people's noses and head and things, the really big snowflake. It's that.
I can't even discuss it with you. I'm so annoyed.
It is snowing like mad. Later on, not now, boys and girls, but if you go to my timeline on Facebook, you can actually see the snow. I walked out this morning.
Excuse me, may I interrupt? Breaking news.
Yes.
We have Dr. Jan Telensky with us as we speak.
Good Lord above. In which case, I'll stop saying hello to everybody. Hello to Christine, who's just joined us as well. Christine, where have you been? You're 5 minutes late. I hope you've got a teacher's note, for goodness sake. Anyway, as we said, this is a really important day because it's about helping people get onto the property ladder, whilst at the same time releasing other housing for people who are a little bit less fortunate to get them into housing as well. It's like 2 in 1. Over to Leigh, and before that, hello, Jan.
Hi there, Eric.
How are you?
Hello, Uncle Jan.
Oh, hi there.
Uncle Jan, I'm going to call.
That's so sweet.
I'm fine. Yeah, thank you.
I'm going to call him Uncle Jan forever now. That's wonderful.
Oh my God.
Thanks, Rach.
Why don't you call me Jan Uncle?
Jan Uncle, that's better, yeah. Well, it's better than, pardon the in-joke here, boys and girls, it's better than Sicofero, isn't it?
Yeah, much better.
I'll find out what that means when I get back.
Yeah, thank you very much. Sonia says hi, as does Sonia Webb, as does Steve Mann as well. So anyway, listen, I'm going to be if you want to ask Jan a question on any of the chat rooms, please feel free to do so. Hi to Vlado's just joined us as well.
And do ask questions, though, because it is a really interesting project. It probably is.
Indeed.
It potentially can revolutionise housing and home buying in Britain. Should we ask Jan to explain it? Because basically people in Britain are struggling to buy houses and to find somewhere to live and bring up a family.
Yep.
And this is actually taking on the government's own scheme, isn't it? And beating it.
Yeah, before we do that, just before we start, I have a message that says, hi Jan from Vandor. Who's Vandor?
I have no idea.
That makes 2 of us. Vandor, tell us who you are. Over to you, Jan.
Hi, my name is Dr. Jan Telensky. I'm in charge of various projects in all over Britain, and it combines 3 things. The lack of construction skills, which can only be fulfilled by people having national vocational qualification, which can only be obtained on a building site. So we are at this moment in Eastwood in Nottingham, which is a beautiful countryside. It is ex-council building. Then it was a police station, totally derelict, which was entirely rebuilt by apprentices through a virtual reality scheme. So you imagine you have a mask and gloves, and you are simulating the bathrooms, the wiring, the kitchen, the boiler, everything. And when you get it right, you then go and spend 6 weeks actually doing it on a building site to obtain the NVQ qualification, which is given by BPEC. I've got today here the mayor and the mayoress of this district of Eastwood. I have here the 2 executives from BPEC. We have here today the PFA representatives, which we obviously, our scheme is now training retired footballers, injured footballers who can no longer play football, and we're creating companies and building sites where the footballers are building it. In this building, which we are now, is obviously the scheme which you are talking about. The rent to buy scheme by the government has 3 weaknesses. 1, the rent is very low, but it takes 5 years. And it doesn't establish the price of the flat at the beginning. So by paying a low rent, the flat could be 100,000, but in 5 years, it could be 150,000. So when you deduct the rent, it still doesn't give you the necessary deposit to be bought. So you'll end up as a tenant. Whereas our scheme starts from day 1. The rent to buy client comes, we agree the price, and from day 1, he pays the rent. After 3 years, the flat could be worth more, but he's only paying the price minus the rent, which was agreed on day 1. So an example, let's say he pays 500 pounds or euros a month, that is in 36 months, we are talking about 18,000 pounds. Now, you deduct 18,000 from the 100,000, which means he only needs to borrow 82,000. But if the flat is worth 120,000, his equity is more or less than 60%. Every bank will lend him the money. The next feature is that the person looks after the flat because he knows in 3 years' time he will owe it. Next thing is, when he pays £500 a month rent, in 3 years' time when he repays his mortgage, he will only pay 400 or maybe 350. So he is actually benefiting by being an owner, which is always the other way around. And ownership results in a high mortgage, and the person has to pay a large proportion of his income for the mortgage repayment, if he gets the mortgage or she gets the mortgage, and if they can save up the deposit. Because for a flat on 100,000, they would require minimum £10,000. Whereas here, through the rent, he saved 18,000 and the equity is 20,000 more. So everyone, for instance, in this beautiful building, we have 7 flats that have already been sold purely or rent to buy. So it creates the job in constructive industry. It regenerates derelict building. It gives people opportunity to become from tenant the owner, and at the same time it makes their life better, because when they become the owner they have more disposable income in their pocket. So it actually covers all the problems which today's society have. Lack of skills, lack of finance to be able to buy, lack of good property, because he will move as a tenant into a brand new flat, which he will maintain for 3 years and then becomes an owner. So he is tenant come owner within 3 years, or she. Okay? That's how it works.
I think that's...
Listen, I would love to be a prime minister, but the problem is I don't tell political jokes because sometimes they get elected. Absolutely. You are never forced to become the owner. You can be a rent to buy for 2 years and then say, I want to buy it now. You can be renting it for 3 years. You can rent it for 4 years and then decide not to buy it. You are not binding. This is not binding. It is a voluntary agreement.
It's an opportunity.
You have the choice to buy it, but you don't need to buy it. But I can tell you, we have sold over 200 flats. We haven't got a simple case, one case, where the person, realizing that his flat is worth much more than when they bought it, would want to go out, because all they need to do is buy it and within a year sell it with profit. So they could get all the rent back plus the profit and then go and buy a better flat.
It's interesting also, Jan, that if house prices collapsed in the UK, there is even a safety factor built in for that, isn't there?
Yes. Well, what you will do if the prices collapse, they would never collapse more than 10-20%. All you need to do is keep being tenant for longer, and then longer you tenant, more you discount it. So within 4 or 5 years, and when they start going up, now you are going to be in real money, because instead of having 18,000, right, you will deduct 24,000, you'll deduct 30,000, but if the price levels at what you bought it for, well, all you need to do is borrow 70,000 and you still have 100,000 flat. So and that's the idea. It caters for the unlikely event of prices coming down.
And what is the scheme operating?
Well, it won't affect you with us, but there is one thing. Think about it, Jason. You have paid your rent, Jeremy, you've paid your rent for 36 months regularly. That proves to everybody that you are a good client. Nobody will ask about your bad debts 5-10 years ago. The bank sees you as a good client not because they think you're a good client. You proved it by paying your rent regularly over the period of 36 months. We've built over 300 flats. I can tell you where we're building now: Southampton, Burnley, Birmingham, Dewsbury, Manchester, Blackpool. We are all over the country because the scheme is, we are getting into a position now that we have clients who want to buy it before we even start building it. No, every client, every tenant will take an independent advice. That is compulsory. He has to take independent advice to either estate agent or a lawyer that the price which we are asking is fair. But of course, our prices are lower than normal prices because they've been built by apprentices. And remember, the apprentices don't charge for the labor because they are doing their exam on it. That's why our prices are actually slightly below the market price. I mean, no, if she has it valued, they'll tell her it's 10% below the standard rate, at least.
Yeah, no, it was really, I was going to ask where these schemes are being run out across the UK, but you already answered that.
And I forgot, we just got a big scheme in Hull, opposite the football stadium, 26 flats, which will be entire built by the PFA retired footballers.
That's interesting.
And we just bought 25 flats in the corner exchange in Hull, very luxurious flats which will be developed. So we are in Hull as well, which I forgot to mention.
In Blackpool, the apartments are coming out around about the normal price around there.
No, in Blackpool, because there is a shortage of holiday flats.
Yeah.
We didn't sell them. We gave it to an agent who now lets them as a holiday flats. But after 2 years, we will change the planning permission. And because there is a demand to buy it, and we will all sell them rent to buy.
So you're even helping the holiday industry.
Holiday industry, yes.
That's amazing. Oh.
None whatsoever. The only support we have is the government admitted and gave us a certification that this is affordable housing scheme, and that means wherever I build the flats, I don't need to pay the SIL, the payment which you have to pay to the local council or give them free flats. We don't need to do that. Absolutely. Well, I can tell you that 7 flats were built in Leeds by Leigh Roach, ex-England youth player, an ex-Manchester United player. It was built by Lee Roach, who now got his CSIS card and is working at triple the salary he was working before as a plasterer for a big company in Manchester, making a good money.
I think it's worth pointing out, because we've not mentioned it yet, but this is all going to be featured on the ConsumerWatchFoundation.com beginning next week.
That's good. And we'll be able to send the pictures of this building. It's a beautiful building which we are broadcasting right now. Because they rehearse it on virtual reality. He makes all the mistake in the virtual reality world. Remember, he builds the kitchen 10 times in virtual world. And then we build it 5 times right. I'll take the goggles and the gloves off, and he makes the kitchen perfect under supervision of a professional expert. Because remember, this is his exam. Every day he has to do a portfolio on his work. He has to file it. And once he finishes 6 weeks, his exam, the board examines it. So actually the quality is well above average. Because when do you do things right? When you do exams.
Okay.
Let's not go. The mayor working. The mayor is going to say goodbye, so I've got to go.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you, Jan. The mayor, Andrew will take you out, yeah? Yeah. We're ready to say goodbye to the mayor, but thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much. Bye-bye.
That's all right. Don't worry about it. I deserve good peace times. It's been awful. I've had no English beer here that's been worth drinking. I am disgusted. I hate London beer and I hate Nottingham beer. Bye-bye.
Hello. It was amazing. And what a great thing for Uncle Jan to be doing. What a terrific thing. He does lots of lovely things for the communities, and I think it's brilliant. I think he should do one in Australia next.
I think you could be right there, Rach. I can see where he's coming from in that by unlocking these properties, he gives people a chance to get on the property ladder. But as I said before, when he unlocks these properties that allows people with a few bob to start renting to buy, that also unlocks the normal social housing that those not in such a good position can't even get into. So he's doing 2 jobs for the price of 1.
That's it.
Yeah,
I mean, and it's not like you couldn't do it here. There's plenty of room.
Yeah, there you go. What can I say? It's marvellous.
Exactly.
Jan, can you hear me now? Because I didn't have the microphone turned up. I'm sorry.
That's why. Because I got one of my mates here in Melbourne.
Yeah.
Is Jessie. She's listening. Hi, Jess.
Hello, Jess.
She's listening, and she said, I can hear the guy in the toilet, but I can't hear the other guy in the studio.
Well, I wasn't saying anything anyway, so it doesn't really matter a lot.
No, it was I. So.
No, absolutely not. But all good. Okay, so we're going to move on. Crash through some news quickly. That was not a Brexit thing. It's just that we've got so much to get through and a lot of Australian stuff to get through as well. Jeremy Corbyn has said that Julian Assange should not be extradited. He thinks it's wonderful what he was doing. A judge, actually the judge in the case the first one that Assange stood for was described as a narcissist.
No kidding.
No kidding.
Wow.
Yeah, and he was found guilty of breaching his bail conditions. Not only that, he's now been, apparently there's been a request for the consulate assistance after Assange was taken from the embassy in London. The Australian Prime Minister Scott Morrison said Assange will not get special treatment and will have to make his way through whatever comes his way in terms of the justice system.
And I don't agree with Scott Morrison on anything, but I agree with him on that.
Yep, yeah, it was. It was bad on there.
Julian Assange is as an Australian, I have to say he's a complete embarrassment.
Yep.
He is a self-serving crybaby. He is somebody who believes he is above the rules. Mm-hmm. And you know what, his solicitor, it's really annoying. His solicitors here are banging on about the fact that he's a marvellous journalist and he won a Walkley Award, which is basically, a Walkley Award is probably the highest honour you can get in journalism. And he was given a Walkley Award here in Australia for his WikiLeaks work back in the day. But the US didn't give him an award, and neither did Britain.
No.
So
neither did Sweden.
It's been doled out to you, and neither is Sweden. So take the punishment that's been dished out. You can't avoid dealing with the police. If you've done nothing wrong, what are you worried about?
Absolutely. My whole sentiment entirely. We're back. That was my fault. Hello to Jessie Cooper. Hello,
That's Jessie. You was talking about then.
That's the lovely Jessie. Hello, Jessie. My brother says, yes, it was bad on FB. Can hear you now. Turn the mic off, Eric. Ha, ha, ha. Very droll. Stop. No deal Brexit plans have been switched off due to the fact that we're now back to Halloween is the next date. But can I just say something to Mrs. May? Mrs. May, please listen. Please listen. This is really simple. This is really, really simple. Stay in the European Union for now. Go through the elections. Because all, and I mean all the predictions, not just one or two polls, but the whole shooting match, is saying that the EU Parliament is going to change dramatically in the way it's made up in the next elections. In other words, it's going to move very central. Now, when it does that, you could go back to them and say, yeah, I've got a good idea. Why don't we have the idea that Mr. Cameron had, and had you given it to him, we wouldn't have needed Brexit anyway, and we can probably stay with you. And you'll probably get past. So hang in there, kid. Hang in there. Hang in there.
I know there's not, particularly, our audience, I know there's not a lot of May fans. But, would you want to be heard for 5 minutes while this has been going on? And it's funny, we see certain things in Australia. We see certain things on the news about Brexit. And honestly, this woman looks like she's being harangued and harassed and beaten about. And again, I've said it a million times. How long ago did people vote to leave? I mean, how long is this going to take?
3 and a bit years.
It's just, and as I said last week, it's just every time they go to vote about a deal, they're rewriting democracy. The people wanted to go. Go,
absolutely. And
Get it done.
I think one of the other things the politicians, I think some of them have tumbled here, but not all, in that there will be elections. And when those elections come, Brits are a bit like elephants. Nothing to do with my rotund shape.
They have enormous trunks.
They have very long memories. And when politicians upset them, they remember for their entire lives. And that means anybody that's really ticked them off will never get a vote again from an awful lot of people. So MPs, just remember what you're doing, because you might be out of a job. Actor Geoffrey Rush has been awarded damages in Australia, Rach.
He has. He sued the Daily Telegraph, which is a Sydney daily newspaper, for a story that came out that he was sexually harassing one of his co-stars a few years ago when he did a production of King Lear. The thing about this story is that, and it's not, I don't know, the Me Too movement are banging on today about how this is a travesty and blah, blah, blah. But there is a process, and the reason why there's a process is because in Australia there's a thing called the Fair Work Commission. There's an ombudsman that you go to, and that's where you have to go first. You don't go running off to a newspaper and selling your story, or telling them things from your version of events and then they publish without doing the due diligence and fact-checking and making sure they've got it right. So the Daily Telegraph was punished thusly for that. Nobody's calling anybody a liar. Nobody's saying that this girl is telling untruths. She told it how she remembered it. He told it as he remembered it. And now the only thing that's happening here is a paper is being punished for not reporting in a responsible manner, as they should be if they don't.
Indeed. Oliver, nice to have you with us. I reckon Steve's got a sneaky webcam in the studio, because he says there'll be more seasons of Brexit than there will be of Game of Thrones, which brings me nicely to Game of Thrones stars promise lots of blood in the final season, and I don't care.
Oh, but I do. So let's chat about it briefly.
Oh.
I am so excited about it. You know what? It took me a while to get on board with this show. It was about season 4, and everybody was banging on about it. And I said, all right, I want to know what all the fuss is about. And I asked somebody about it, and they said, if you can make it through the first 4 episodes, because it is very, very violent, and there's, all sorts of things which turn the stomach in, incest, etc., etc. But there's also dragons, which are very cool. And if you can get through the first 4 episodes, you'll be okay. And sure enough, I'm absolutely addicted. It screens here in the US on Sunday. It's here on Monday. And we've been waiting 2 years for this last season.
Really?
But apparently every episode is going to be like a small, because they're only doing 7. But every one of them is going to be like a movie. So you're looking at sort of 90 minutes of action. And they said it's going to be the gory. Well, they're all pretty gory, so I wonder how much gory it can possibly get.
Well, there is that to it as well. Hello to Palak and Benjamin. I haven't said hello to you. Steve, he's just replied, oh dear, I didn't mean to write your segue, and I wasn't even paid. Ho, ho, ho. The Rolling Stones are going to be back on tour. As Jagger says, he's on the mend. How does he do it?
I don't know. He should ask Keith.
Have you seen Keith Richards?
He's getting tips from him. I reckon they, I don't know. I think they get infused with elf blood just quietly. But you got to hand it to him, don't you? This guy is so fit. Apparently, during one concert, he will run the equivalent of 5 kilometres.
I know, but
which is
Keith
exceptional
Richards,
for a man of his vintage.
Yeah, I know, but Keith Richards needs to come on stage with an iron and an ironing board.
Oh, he does. He looks like he needs a good steam.
He does.
If you stretched him out now, he'd probably be about 7 feet tall.
Yes. Jesse says 2 days to Game of Thrones. Oh dear.
Oh, yes. And now you know what? Jesse and I are in an office with a whole bunch of cackling women who have been going on about a show called Married at First Sight for the last 2 months, which we find absolute trash because it is. And now we get to repay them by banging on about Game of Thrones, which we know they don't watch. So it's revenge time.
I'm trying to think what I just started watching. It's on a box. Krypton.
Oh yes.
I've started watching Krypton.
It's not bad.
It's actually quite good because I've done all my box sets of NCIS, Los Angeles, yada yada yada. So I was looking for something else to do, and I jumped into this one. What radio is this? Says Palak. Radio Tatras International. What it says at the top. Hello. Good morning.
Hello.
Hello. Oh God, this worries me immensely. Kim Kardashian West has gone legally blonde, revealing she's studying to become a criminal justice lawyer. Would you put your faith in a Kardashian?
Lord save us, honestly. This is, and I mean, you know what? It's so funny this is happening during the whole college admission scandal.
Yeah.
We wonder how much they're paying for this. We really do. If she can pass the bar without somebody else sitting it for her, then if she can do it on her own, then best of luck to her. And it's nice to see somebody from that family, finally launching a legitimate career. But I just think it's kind of, a bit hilarious. I'm no fan of Kardashians at all. Mm-hmm. But if she has the nous and if she can get through it herself without any aid from anybody, i.e. sitting the exam for her, then, good luck to her.
Yep,
I wouldn't hire her.
No, I wouldn't either. But apparently her father was a trained lawyer as well.
That's right. Well, Robert Kardashian famously is her father, and he was on the defence team during the OJ trial.
That's it. That's where I'm getting it from. No, not the Krypton Factor, you silly girl. It's Krypton, the TV series, not Krypton Factor. It's all about Superman. It's a sci-fi.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a sci-fi drama. It works.
That's right.
With a little bit of comedy thrown in. The Duke and Duchess have announced the plans for the baby arrival. They will not be standing on the steps of the hospital so everybody can take pickies. They're going to stick the pickies out on social media.
Well, good on them. This is not a future heir, so they can pretty much do what they like.
Yeah.
It's not a requirement. I mean, we saw, lovely Kate Middleton step out looking fabulous about 5 minutes after she had her babies.
She didn't even have a proper mummy tummy.
She didn't. It was frighteningly obscene. But so did Princess Diana.
Yeah.
I think Sarah Ferguson and Andrew chose to do it, but there's no protocol to say they have to, because their child is not a direct descendant. He's not going to be king anytime soon, or queen.
No.
When we determine the sex. So if they want to do it privately, they should, like everybody else.
Absolutely. Moving on to science quickly, as we will, as Mike joins us. The first ever image of a black hole has been unveiled to scientists. And I found this so funny, Rach. I did.
I knew you would.
No, it was because once I saw it come out, I purposely went rounds to all the newsy type programmes to hear these news anchors struggling like crazy to figure out what the scientists were telling them. And you could see it was going straight over their heads.
Yes, there was I love that pun. That was very good, Uncle Larry. I don't know whether you realise what you just said, but you said some funny stuff over their heads. I find this brilliant. I'm loving that they've proven the existence of black holes. We always knew they were there, but we never had any definitive proof.
But it's the way they got the telescopes all together and took little bits from here, there and everywhere to build. So it's a bit like building a supercomputer, isn't it?
It really is. And I mean, this is such an impressive feat to actually photograph it, given the fact that it's like 500 trillion miles away. It's really, the power of this machinery they're building is absolutely incredible. And I'm a big space nerd and a big science nerd, but I find this really exciting.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm so excited they found it, and the images are just spectacular.
And the way that they're predicting the time wobbles in front of the hole as well, I'm sitting there going, cool.
Well, this is the great thing. I mean, for people who are fans of the Back to the Future franchise, it doesn't mean that. You can't go backwards, you can't go forwards, but you can stretch it.
Yes.
So it's fascinating. The whole business is
like a
fascinating.
clock on a flat battery, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. You can, if you go to another place beyond that black hole, that could be 5 minutes in their time, but 30 years in ours.
Oh no!
So it's
no! I wouldn't want to do that because I'd die quick.
Well, no, if you went, you'd come back and you'd be 5 minutes older, but everybody else would be 30 years older.
Oh, that's okay. The Israel spacecraft, Bereshit, has crash-landed on the moon, and it's so sad. I mean, they got pictures of it just before the crash, and it was because it was such a tiny device, and on such minimal fuel, they didn't have enough. But the Prime Minister of Israel, I thought, was flipping marvellous over this, because he went there and there was some really glum faces. They were all about to sort of say, "Oh, sorry," and he said, "Don't worry, let's do it again."
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, you really do feel for the people that are responsible for building and then launching this, because it's a big undertaking and it takes a lot of time, a lot of years, a lot of passion, and then for it to crash. But it's pretty remarkable what they've done. Only 3 other nations have successfully landed anything on the moon. That's China, the former Soviet Union, and the United States. So they're in very good company when it comes to their space program. And that's the thing. If at first you don't succeed,
try again. Try again. That's what it's all about. The characters from Grease are set to return to our screens in a prequel of the iconic musical. There's still discussions going on about whether Olivia Newton-Bomb will have a role or whether she will have a new actress playing her role, which I suspect is going to happen. But I'm reserved, Rach.
I think this is an atrociously bad idea. I think it's defiling the good name. I mean, they tried Grease too, and it was the most atrocious thing I've ever seen, aside from anything Jeremy Clarkson has ever done on television. But but the thing that they're talking about now, the whispers are that John Travolta and Olivia Newton-John will play the parents. And I think that's even worse as a notion. Those of us who are true Grease lovers are thinking this is a terrible, terrible idea and hope it never sees the light of day.
Yep. A young woman who's raising her 5 young kids after their parents died of cancer has been gifted a new car. And, the Orange County Sheriff's Department surprised the family with the gift after pretending that they were going to take them around their aviation unit as a bit of a prezi. The way that ordinary folks donated to get this car for these people, I just think is a love. Why can't more places in the world be like that?
Well, it's funny, I've heard of these stories before. That even here in Australia, you'll have a family who loses parents, and the oldest sibling is left to take care of her other siblings, and usually they're quite young. I mean, this young lady is 20 years old, and all of a sudden she's got 5 kids. How does that work? So it's nice, and I think when they did it here, the young girl was just about to turn 18, and there was a concern that her siblings would be taken from her by Department of Human Services because she wasn't of age. But they set up, they featured her on one of our current affairs programs. I think they ended up raising $200,000 just by people feeling the feels of that story and then donating money. Yep. People can be nice, and we just hope more of it happens.
Indeed. Melbourne, how are you getting on with that chemical fire?
Oh, that was crazy. It wasn't actually too far. It was sort of, I don't know, it was a safe distance from where we were at work, but we could see the smoke and smell it, and it was pretty intense. But the thing that's interesting about this story is that 3 days before that fire, the EPA had fined that company for the way they were storing their hazardous chemicals and the fact that they were storing certain things that were illegal.
Wow.
So there will be hell to pay.
All right. He's doing it again, Rach.
What's that?
He was talking about the black hole in real terms, but Steve said that's what happens when you take a selfie whilst driving, which leads me beautifully into the news that police have unveiled a new device that can detect when motorists are using their mobile phones when driving.
I like that idea, but I don't like it also because a lot of people, Jesse Cooper included, use their phone as a GPS when they're driving around. So how do we know that they're using it for? How's that going to be policed? How do we know what they're using it for?
I think if they're holding it, then that's where you get into trouble. Because with GPS, you can put one of those little suction caps on your dashboard and hold the phone. And to be honest, even if you've got an older car, it is not a problem to convert them to Bluetooth. It's like $20. Even if you've got one of those old FM cassette radio things, you can do it. So there's not really any excuse. And I see people even now driving around, holding the phone to their ear. And I just don't do it. I haven't done it for years. And if I was in a car...
Well, do you remember the olden days, Uncle Eric, when there were no mobile phones? And if so, you wanted to call somebody, you would wait till you got home and call them?
Funny that.
Remember that?
Yeah. Well, anyway, Hampshire and Thames Valley Police in the UK are going to be the first to roll out this new device. And it's going to be done in where there's accident hotspots at the moment, which I think is a pretty good idea, to see whether it's the use of the mobiles that's causing the problems or not. So thank you again for another segue, Steve. Thousands of EU children living in foster care in the UK should be given automatic British citizenship, which is a lovely idea. I get the fact that they probably can't fill in all the forms, but just because they're in social care doesn't mean you can take them away from the parents.
No, it doesn't. They could be in temporary care. It's this. I think it may work if it's a case by case. Like if a child has been completely abandoned, that's one issue. Mm-hmm. But if the parents are having, some sort of issue that will likely resolve, then you can't. So I think it should be a case by case thing. But I mean, either way. The thing is to look out for the kiddies, and
exactly.
if one thing leads to another, and they are then fostered into care into the UK, then terrific. But if it's not necessary, if it's an extreme situation, yes. If not, then case by case.
Yeah, get them back to the parents if it's humanly possible. And we remember on this programme talking about 2 young kids that were taken into care incorrectly in the UK and were about to be put up for adoption because people didn't know what was going on and how things work, and we had to intervene, and lawyers were involved and MPs were involved. I ended up talking in the Commons in the UK about the whole thing. So calm down, kids. You've got to think about the kids first and you grown-ups second. Amazon listens to what you're saying. Why am I not surprised?
Well, this has been going on for ages with, smart TVs and goodness knows what else. I mean, this is not new. So I don't know, you're exactly right. It's like, shock horror.
Yeah, shock horror, nothing. I haven't got one of those Alexa things. I don't see the point.
Neither.
I don't see the point of it. B, I have no voice commands on any televisions or anything like that because I can't be bothered. Because you know what? I've got an old-fashioned wireless keyboard mouse that sits on my lap, and I can do everything on my telly. Everything.
I've got a remote control. It works perfectly nicely.
Yeah, but this also does the computer that's plugged in the back as well. So I can
I just use my iPad, my Apple iPad.
Do you know how much my little device plugged in the telly was?
I don't know.
€35.
But see, that's the thing. You're a DIY guy too. I'm not, and I need to buy my technology. I don't know how to make it. I don't know how to make it, so
Jesse's comments on the story a little while ago. Grease 2 was terrible. You're damn right there, Jesse. It was
an appalling thing.
It was horrible.
Really horrible.
Apparently, I'm wrong. It hears what you are saying, and only hears what you are saying after you said the trigger phrase. No. No. Be careful.
I need to fetch my no button from work. I've got a button that screams no works in about 8 different ways.
Yeah, that's the way to do it. A new study shows that the growing problem with opioid painkillers is really getting dangerous. People are relying on them far too strongly. It's a rising epidemic. And I would say to so many people, please be careful. I've been there. And this is what happened. Genuinely, I ended up in a life-saving operation. Seriously, when I first came here, I had a ruptured appendix. And I just thought, got to get the radio station going, keep taking these cocodamol tablets. And I ended up, I think you're supposed to take maximum of 4 a day. I was taking 2 every 2 hours. And I kept going and kept going and kept going. And they were, I was a junkie. But what it did was just cover up the chronic pain, and by the time I collapsed, the poison from this appendix had gone into my brain.
This is the trouble, though, Uncle. You know what? This is interesting that this is a UK story because it's also an Australian story.
Yeah, and it's big in Australia. Yeah,
it's massive, and the fact that people and now you can't buy anything with codeine over the counter in Australia. You must have a prescription from the doctor. But the trouble is that doctors are sometimes misprescribing it and prescribing it in numbers that they shouldn't. And people have been, when they found out that it was going to be taken off the over-the-counter situation, they were stockpiling. So they're still misusing this medication. And the thing about codeine will get you addicted, which is because it's an opioid.
Yeah.
But it's the paracetamol and the ibuprofen in these products that will actually kill your liver.
Absolutely, and also they're really anything with ibuprofen in is very, very dodgy for asthmatics. So don't take them.
And if you're, it'll rip your stomach lining off.
Absolutely,
if you overuse it. So
we'll crank no good. We'll crank through a couple of stories, just the headlines. I love this one. 9 nurses working on the same maternity ward are all heavily pregnant and due to give birth around the same time. They should know better.
They should know better. They should know how to not get into that sort of trouble. And don't they witness enough gore and God knows what to be put off that for life?
Yeah, well, exactly. I love the story. I'm just going to call her Anastasia, who went to court in Russia, of all places, because she's transgender. And she fought for her labour rights in a Russian courtroom. Can you imagine how brave you've got to be to do that?
Oh, very much, because there's big penalties for that sort of stuff.
Yep, and here comes the nub. Russian law prohibits women from working in 456 different professions. Citing...
And this is a democracy, they say.
Yeah, citing protecting their reproductive health.
Oh, stop.
I agree. I agree. They've had to close Lake Elsinore in South California due to the fact that some plants, they're actually flaming orange poppies. And these things only flower every now and again, about 10 years. And the whole field has just come out with them this year. And there was something like, 150,000 people flooded into this small town to see these blooms. And the town just couldn't manage.
They couldn't. They were bursting at the seams and they could not cope. And the 60,000 odd residents said, "We are so miserable with all these people here."
I agree,
Get
guys.
out.
Get out. A top hat and a cigar once owned by Sir Winston Churchill have been found in a rubbish tip.
See, I didn't read it very well to begin with, and I thought a cigar. Like, who'd want to buy a dirty old cigar? It's to clarify, it's actually in a cigar case. So
that's true. Yeah.
Chewed up old Churchill cigar.
Yeah, it's sort of eaten it or something.
That's it.
And they've actually got a confirmation letter saying that it's really his.
Now it's worth, what, 10 grand?
Apparently, yeah, because he went on the BBC Antiques Roadshow, and, of course, they lit up. Ha, ha, ha. Oh, never mind. That didn't work, did it? That didn't work. Anyway, it lit everything up, and now it's probable that not only will it make the 10 grand that they're talking about, but it could actually make even more because the media hype connected to it is so huge, and you never know. Well, it's lovely to see something from one of Britain's heroes actually finding its rightful place. I think that's how
it'd be cool if whoever ended up buying it, it'd be cool if they donated it to that fantastic war museum in London.
That would be nice.
That would be nice. I went to that museum. It's really good.
It is cool actually in there, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Did you go into the Churchill war rooms? Yeah.
Yep, we went there, and
it's yummy.
It was just, you could just smell history. It was so great, and Robbie loved it because he's an old war buff and a Churchill fan, and it was just terrific. Terrific
day out. Hi, Matt. The Los Angeles home of Monty Python star Eric Idle it was deluged in police because somebody opened a package and it had suspicious powder inside it. I wonder if it had been a normal house, whether they would have bothered.
Well, I mean, I think in America they're pretty nervous about those things. These parcels end up in strange places all over the place. So, that CNN situation not long ago, and it was...
That's true,
it's a bit wacky, but I mean, you have to wonder if that had been true, who targets Eric Idle?
I can't think. I mean, he's such a nice guy.
He doesn't say anything wacky. He's not political. He's just a funny man who made funny films.
Absolutely.
It's like, who targets him? It's like targeting Santa
No,
Claus.
he just did comedy. Perhaps they don't like comedy.
Maybe they're just not funny people.
Yeah. Anyway, apparently a 160-person entourage will be joining Madonna for her 2-song performance at the Eurovision Song Contest next month in Tel Aviv. And they're already having a barney with the organisers because apparently one of her songs is a bit of a political statement, and one of them will be one of her classic hits. And you can't make political statements at Eurovision Week, can you? Well, can you do anything politically? No, I'm not going there. And finally this week, this is the most horrifically wrong survey of all time, and it proves.
I agree to a degree.
It proves my point because it wasn't the public that voted for this so-called best sitcom of all time. It was 42 comedy experts.
I wonder who they are.
Well, Richard Curtis is one of them. He's good. I like Barry Cryer. Right. He's okay. But I don't know who the rest of them were. And I suspect they were all lovies. I really do.
Maybe they were writers on these shows.
Well, there is that to it as well. Yeah. But I mean,
I agree with the number one. I enjoyed the number one.
Right.
But I think and I'm glad that Blackadder's there, and I'm glad that The Good Life is there, but I think it's a bit too low. Yeah,
let's run down them really quickly. The Detectorist, The Good Life, Gavin and Stacey, The Young Ones, The Fall and Rise of Reggie Perrin, or Reginald Perrin, The Vicar of Dibley, One Peep Show, The Office, The Thick of It, Dinner Ladies, absolutely fabulous, The Royal Family, Porridge, Only Fools and Horses, Dad's Army, Blackadder. Number 3 was I'm Alan Partridge. Number 2, Father Ted, and number 1 was 40 Tales. Now,
The Young Ones should have been number 2 at least.
Well, I mean, Only Fools and Horses has got to be in the top 3. Dad's Army is still on the television to this day.
Yes, that's true.
So that should be higher up. The Royal Family never got into that because couldn't be bothered. I'm Alan Partridge makes me cringe.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not really funny. One Peep Show, that's kind of all right.
Where's Keeping Up Appearances, for goodness sake?
Well, yes. Where's Mrs. Bucket? Mrs. Bucket?
That's right.
Mrs. Bucket's not there. I mean, how can you have a top 20 list of comedies without Mrs. Bucket?
You can't. That's why this list is trash.
Absolutely. I mean, I love Ab Fab, but it's not that funny. I like Ab Fab for the subplots that go on. Because they're kind of funny. Oh, God, I sound like a critic now. The Young Ones was okay in its day.
Oh, my God. See, it was on when I was a teenager, and I found it hilarious.
Well, Gavin and Stacey was the same kind of thing, where they used to walk around, and, that was about it. The Vicar of Dibley was just one of those quintessentially English comedies, which was kind of, as was The Dinner Ladies, but it wasn't that funny.
Yeah.
It was okay. But, Del Boy was always in trouble in Only Fools and Horses. He always wanted him to win, but he never did. And he's always going to be a millionaire, but he never got there. And it was just funny. It really was funny. So whoever dreamt this list up, sorry, you're a plonker.
Where's To the Man Are Born? That was just joyous.
That was brilliant. Yes, you're absolutely right, Rach. Absolutely flipping right. Anyway, it's time for you to tell us what you're doing this weekend, dear lady.
Oh, I'll tell it very quickly, but I'm very excited. I'm not excited that I got to work tomorrow, but that's the way it is. And Sunday, I've got the rest of my birthday present from Robbie. I'm going to spend a day at art school.
Wow.
And paint lots of paintings.
Wow.
I'm really, really excited about it. I might actually learn some technique.
Oh, hang on, we've got some dissenters in the troops. Jesse says 40 Towers is still the best show ever. Steve says The Young Ones was the best comedy ever. With that, Rach, you're going to have to say goodbye.
Oh, no, I don't want it.
Well, Steve will get upset if you don't say goodbye.
Oh, goodbye.
Okay, we're going to see you soon. Take care, everybody. Thank you ever so much for all your input this week. It's been absolutely flipping amazing. From me, Eric Wiltshire, we're handing over the reins to the young Steve, who's going to do his stuff. See you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.
Station of the Stars. RTI.
The Steve Bishop Show is ready to depart. Stand clear of the doors, please.
Thought we'd start off this week with a bit of a sing-song. It doesn't matter if you don't know the verse, you can just join in with the chorus.
I was at